Hey, dear friends, I'm going to do a talk today about a training, a class, seminar, human growth, potential, awareness program, spiritual, whatever, has a lot of jargony phrases attached to it. But back in the late 60s and 70s, I guess, at some period, a man named Werner Erhard developed a program called EST, E-S-T, small letters. Um, EST was a seminar where they would have people like in a giant hotel room they would rent out. And people would convene, 100, maybe more people, several hundred in a room, receive lectures about parameters of life, how to live one's life fully and on the terms that you can lead a productive, valuable, significant life with self-fulfillment and all these kind of things, self-esteem, self-respect, the qualities and virtues most people espouse: honesty, love, devotion, success, achievement, just across the board. It's basically a seminar to help you plug into what it's like to be a better, more functional human being in society. Not really laden with any specific beliefs that you had to adhere to, per se, although they did have strict rules of order and how the seminars were conducted, and that was a source of controversy for years. That people were locked in rooms, were not allowed to go to bathrooms. There was a lot of yelling, cursing. Well, that's true. I believe in EST, which I never did take that training, but I heard from firsthand from people who did. A spouse of mine took it, and she said, yeah, it got almost violent in the tone and rage of the trainers yelling at people sometimes, and so it could be almost what you might consider abusive. Okay, so I don't know. It was intriguing to me, the idea that you could take something like this and come out better, having people almost like a boot camp that soldiers go into to be deconditioned from civilian life to military. This was kind of basically a wake-up call to condition you from being a slob or a lazy human being or someone who's not really living a full life up to your standard of what you were capable of, in other words, and help you to raise up and see that possibility you can become a better human being. And so EST, again, was not really a cult. I don't believe it was a training that you paid money for. It was a business. It was for profit, and the money would help the company grow, I suppose, and more people took the training. So that lasted for quite a while, and then I guess it fizzled out somewhere along the way. But it was a very significant movement at the time in realizing that there was almost a secular way of looking at spirituality, if that's possible. I mean, in other words, you didn't have to per se worship a god or believe in a god or religion to still gain great benefits by examining your life in a way that would allow you to promote the better values and virtues that are generally accepted in life, for one living a good quality life, and just being very honest about it across the board and being able to make better choices. I think ultimately it's about making better choices in your life so that you come from a place of responsibility, accountability, that you maintain and keep agreements with honesty, sincerity, with integrity. You become a person who is able to both give and receive more from life itself without being a victim, playing the role of a victim with a story all the time why your life went wrong and sour. So that's the gist of it. Now, Lifespring was developed by a man named John Hanley, I believe, and he was a businessman too, and I think had a background somewhat in spirituality and psychology and that sort of thing, and came up with this program loosely based, I think, on EST, but it was different than EST. It was a lot softer, and I mean softer in the right ways. It was still harsh in a lot of ways, in that they had strict rules too to get you to look at agreements you make and how you make them and why you break them and these sort of things. So there was a little bit of a confrontation there between the staff and the trainers and the people participating in the training. Lifespring offered a money-back guarantee that if you completed the training and did not feel it was worth your money, you could get your money back, get a full refund. They would just simply ask that you part ways then and you're done. For people that took the training and think it was worth the money, they were able to audit a training again. In other words, when they had trainings in the future, you could audit, and for a small fee, I think it was like $50 or maybe less, you were able to go through the whole training again if you wanted at a much reduced cost, a minimal cost. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. And when I took the training, at the end, I felt it was worth much more than the price I had paid. I took the subsequent advanced training, which cost twice as much. And then I volunteered for a year, just doing volunteer work with them. And the payback for me in doing all the volunteer work was we got free training seminar weekends, or we got trainings too. These trainings would all be different, slightly different each one, but they were based on the same idea of practicing fundamental habits as being a human being that serve you as a human being. So again, they're rooted a lot in the agreements we make with people, and our honesty, the trust we make and develop. Our intention is a very, very strong part of it, and along with, and also clearing up our past ghosts, our tapes, our demons from the past, and not letting them clog up our lives with stories and reasons why we're not making our lives be what we want them to be. So it's about really helping you along the way in life to kind of heal and let go of the things that we use to bind ourselves, the chains we literally wrap around ourselves in our life out of old beliefs, traumas, emotional patterns that get all mixed up in with our life, and it becomes part of our life, then who we are, and doesn't really need to be. So it's about shedding the old skin, clearing things up, as it were, and healing. Generally a healing. And it's not a specific kind of healing. It varies for each person in terms of what kind of healing they need and to what degree and all that, and how long it might take. But I found it a fundamentally life-changing seminar. And for the year I spent volunteering also, I got great benefits. I just a lot of rewards. The connectedness with other people, being of service. It was such a wonderful feeling. And I haven't done a lot of that over the years of my life, and I'm a little ashamed to say that I haven't had those really good feelings because I just haven't participated in a church group or any kind of club or activity where I get out. I did briefly a few times, and the times I did, honestly, it was great. It was really great. So it's just part of the sad human condition, how we can get sidetracked in our lives and distracted by so many things we put above something that we know is really valuable, but we start wanting more and more. The grass is greener, so we go over here and try something, and next thing you know, we get sidetracked. And that's kind of how my life went. I got sidetracked with a lot of other things that I saw as maybe more, I had more incentive or more important to me, and then in the long run, I didn't get that good vibe feeling that I might have gotten and engendered for myself being more of a person of service, doing volunteer. I guess I look at it a lot in my lives when I do things for people, family or friends. That's enough, And that's kind of a lazy way of looking at it, because I could have done so much more. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's a Lifespring phrase, saying I coulda, woulda, shoulda done something when, hey, all you have is right now. All we have is right now. So that's why I'm doing this seminar, this video right now, is try and share that little bit of information and knowledge that I've gained with you. Hopefully it'll help you in some way. I trust it at some level it will. And I just want to say that in Lifespring, I'm going to do a series on the Lifespring training. And during the program I took, we were supposed to keep everything secret, all the basic exercises we did. I will pretty much still respect that. And the names, I don't remember most of the names of the people, so the confidentiality would not be a big issue. I think I'm going to divulge, as they always said we were allowed to, what is our experience of the training. I'll share that with you, and maybe a little bit about how the exercises brought me to certain concepts and revelations and beliefs that I now have in my life. Lifespring was instrumental in so many ways because it opened me up in a way that I had not been at that point in my life. I had not really been able to. I had already become very conditioned by my upbringing in both the schools, church, family, society in general, my peers, and I had lost a lot of that spontaneity that we have as children, that really open, loving, childlike innocence that, of course, it's not going to last with you as an adult. You're going to change and mature as an adult, but you still, if you can keep that energy, that vibrancy, that spark of just genuine being in the moment and being creative and being alive and spontaneous, that's something that Lifespring helped me get back in touch with, that I still had that within me. And so it doesn't mean that I took it the wrong way a lot, that you're supposed to stay like a kid. And I behaved a lot like a kid most of my adult life. Being a bachelor for 30 years, I drifted into a lot of behaviors that you might consider today immature. And I own that now, that I did. I just basically took it to heart that being like a child is something you want to do. And now I realize that's not really the case. As a 69-year-old senior citizen, I ought to be living a little more as the age that I am, with a little more maturity and wisdom instead of trying to be a kid. Doesn't mean I can't still be silly and wacky and do childlike things on occasion. I mean, that's perfectly within my range, but I shouldn't be behaving as a child anymore. And I think that's something I'm just now still learning, how to outgrow this tendency to want to shirk responsibility when it's convenient and just go off and play and fantasize about whatever it is you want that day. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some Lifespring talks with you. The first one we'll be talking about will involve trust. And that's a big one for me, just to begin with, trust and honesty. It's the first agreement in the Don Miguel Ruiz 4 agreements. My word is impeccable. When we have come from a place of integrity, this is woven throughout the Lifespring training, authenticity and integrity. And it was one of the key things that it resonated with me throughout the training, is how genuine the training was. It worked because it was based on legitimate concepts and ideas that have been handed down for thousands and thousands of years through different various means, through spiritual practices, religion, culture. It just basically is based on fundamental sound ideas of psychology that work today, that are proven and well accepted. And of course, it's always in a state of revision. Even today, I'm sure all these years later, 40 years after I took the Lifespring training, if they had one today, it'd be considerably different than it was back then. But I don't think it would be a whole lot different. In principle, it'd be fundamentally very similar, and that it's about promoting this source love energy that's contained within all of us. And they emphasize that so much about the heart and source. And of course, they were talking about God, a form of what most people call God. I never understood that in Lifespring. I always thought they were talking about source. It was just like this little source of energy inside of us. I didn't really conceive of it as being also the same source that gives life to everything, that it's a connectedness with the oneness of all things. And now I recognize that is what they were saying basically all that time. I had such a stuck belief system even then that I wouldn't let that in. I wouldn't let anything to do in my current belief system back then that had to do with religion. So the idea of a God that I was brought up to believe and had discarded those beliefs, I just wouldn't allow that back in. So I missed the point of a lot of Lifespring looking back now. And now I'm reliving it, and I'm learning again, kind of learning from my own mind and my own memory of what I learned back then. And I hope to have a book in the mail here tomorrow. And it's based on that from a fellow who did go through the S training also, named Ron Smotherman. It's a book called Winning Through Enlightenment. I highly recommend that book if you'd like a little guide to what I'll be talking about. It'll give you an outline for all the subjects, and every one of them is covered in Lifespring, as well as I'm sure they were in EST. And they're fundamental ideas that you're going to get it right away, that this is stuff that's been talked about a long time. It's just putting it together in a unique package that can actually help you in your life and help you formulate a model for your life that'll get you where you want to be in the long run. So it's like a toolkit. It's like a manual for living your life in a better way. And that's something that I was actually given 40 years ago. And then after practicing it for less than a year and a half, 2 years at best, I discarded it and went back to my old ways of addictive behaviors, which involved drugs, alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs later that were not helping me in any way. And of course, other bad behaviors, I would say bad behaviors, but misguided behaviors, such as creating relationships that didn't work, a poor handling of money and bad money issues, and on and on. So a lot of problems ensued during my life, strictly, I'd say largely because I did not adhere to a lot of the basic fundamental things I was taught in the Lifespring training that'll help your life work. So now I'm back on track. I'm living my life in terms of very similar to the rules and regulations of Lifespring. I don't guess that's a good term, rules and regulations, but they do tell you at the very beginning of the Lifespring training that the essence of the game is contained in the rules. And so the rules of the game, they put them out there, and they have certain strict rules about agreements you will make and timeliness. And ever after that training, I became very, very much more punctual. I had been a person who was tardy a lot in my life, late for appointments and things. I really started being on time, even without wearing a watch anymore. I gave up wearing a watch, and yet I was early or on time for practically every appointment. And I pretty much kept to that to this day. I am still a prompt person. I am a very much procrastinator, if that makes any sense. I put things off, but I'm always there on time in some way. And I always say the affirmation, my timing is perfect, even to this day, because I believe it is. So I believe my timing's perfect right now to sign off on this talk and just let you know there'll be more Lifespring talks coming up and a lot of other good videos I hope you'll enjoy on Flex 369 coming up in the new year of 2021. But every day is a new day, so I wish you well on this one. Be well, my friends. Peace. Namaste.